in-studio edition of the Ad Podcast, coming to you from Kiln and Rancho Bernardo, one of our new podcast studio sponsors that are giving this amazing space. And we've got an exciting entrepreneur for you guys to meet today. Patrick Dillon is a prominent serial entrepreneur, growth consultant, and founder and CEO of Wise Digital Partners, a full-service digital marketing agency that has twice been named to the prestigious Inc. 5000 list as America's fastest-growing private companies. Over a highly successful 20-year career, Patrick has founded more than 10 companies across marketing, SaaS, and the service industries, directly consulting with more than 5,000 business owners on their growth strategies. His ventures have included Deal Current Network, a private label Groupon alternative acquired by Lee Enterprises, and Lightpost Digital. A member of the Forbes Agency Council, Patrick is highly regarded for his disruptive stance on business scaling and is an author of the upcoming book, Referrals Are Not the Answer, where he challenges the traditional reliance on word-of-mouth marketing in favor of predictable, data-driven consumer acquisition systems. Patrick, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Let's go. So I know I gave a little bit of a preamble there, but maybe you can contextualize it for us a little bit. So where'd you grow up? What'd you study? How'd you find yourself in this world of digital marketing and agency land?
Yeah, it's been a zigzag. It's, like it was not a direct line to get here. I grew up in Wisconsin. My parents were entrepreneurs. My dad owned an accounting firm. My mom owned a graphic design business and did like a lot of branding work. So I got to see kind of like right brain, left brain.
Nice.
Very analytical, structured thinking, but also really creative. And I think I just sort of found my way into business ownership. I think I started my first business when I was 12.
Wow. Yeah. Got the itch early, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I had like a lawn cutting landscaping business with employees at 14.
Wow. Let's go.
And, so I ended up getting into sales when I was in college, selling Cutco.
Okay.
Knives,
the knives. Yeah. I've heard good things about that. But you're not the first person who's told me about that as kind of being a pretty formative, early sales role for, young people that are, it was kind of like I've interviewed a lot of people who came out of the Xerox training program and have always, said amazing things about it. I think it's important for salespeople to have one of those formative early sales jobs that kind of taught you the fundamentals, right?
Yeah. There's probably there's a dozen really great, sales training programs for young people with a variety of companies out there. But Cutco was really great. I mean, they recruited more college students to sell and to train to sell than, and almost any company in the world. I think they recruited 80,000 college kids a year.
That's crazy.
So I was their number one sales rep all through school in the state of Wisconsin for about 3 or 4 years. And then I ended up becoming in charge of all their sales promotion, sales training, and sales management training events for 15 states. So I think I helped support about 120 managers and 8,000 reps for about 5 years, putting on sales conferences and incentive trips and stuff like that. So, really neat company, and gave me an incredible background and a really neat group of friends who all became very entrepreneurial as well.
That's cool.
And, great friends in every city and every state in America. I mean, it's still today, it's so neat to be able to connect with all those guys, and everybody's doing really neat things. In my career, I left Cutco in 26. When I was 26, I moved out to San Diego in 2006.
Nice. Okay. And been here ever since?
Yep.
Let's go.
And so 20 years here. I think this has been the city I've lived in the longest.
Wow.
Now. And
it's hard to leave once you get here.
Yeah. Yeah. and luckily I moved here with a bunch of Cutco guys. So
nice.
My partner, his name was Jimmy, and I started our first company out here. And then and I had a big group of guys and gals that we all knew from Cutco as well. And the first company was a crowdsourcing fashion company.
Ah, interesting.
It was number 112 on our combined idea list of companies we wanted to start. And for some reason, I remember that number, and those were not all the nonsense ideas and harebrained ideas. Those were the actual ideas that we we about over a 1.5-year period. And so the first company was kind of similar to Threadless out of Chicago.
Yeah.
We wanted to go up market with it and make it more of an engaging platform from a contest perspective. And, design ideas were submitted by designers that we recruited. So we recruited 10,000 designers around the world that had design profiles on our site. And, ended up with a platform that helped create the products and the designs and the t-shirts and all that stuff. And then we took it into retail, but with data. So like
so you could kind of go into a retailer and say, hey, we've already proven that this particular design has demand.
And cool. Demand from a preference perspective, but also from sales perspective.
Yeah.
And so right as we were getting into like, maybe we weren't even a year and a half in, we were getting into Urban Outfitters and Nordstrom's and stuff like that.
That's crazy.
And then the economy crashed.
Was this 08? Okay, yeah, kind of the.
And Jimmy and I think met for breakfast almost twice a week, deciding on how we were going to tell our parents and friends and family we lost all our money, and like this is the worst time to own a fashion company. Nobody's going to invest in a a disposable brand like this. But an opportunity came. A PR agency, I think it was a PR agency, it was some sort of agency, approached us and said, we've got a client who's really interested in what you guys are building. We can tell from Alexa and Quantcast and all those things, like how many people are coming to your small site and how long they're staying and all
for what you guys were doing.
Our average time on site was almost 11 minutes. And people were just really engaged with the design contests and stuff like that. And the client, we found out after all the NDAs were signed and all this stuff, was Sports Illustrated.
Wow, that's cool.
And so it was for SI Kids initially. We developed a white label version of what we did and helped them drive traffic on their website. And that was a foray into big brands. So we started working with Warner Brother Records, NFL teams, all the Time Inc. brands and stuff like that. And what we found out, which was really neat, was we could double the website traffic of like your average TV, radio, or print publication website within like 30 days.
Wow.
And what was like ridiculous was the question by them of, okay, well, we have all this traffic now. What do we do with it?
Yeah.
Like we sell advertising. Is it a novel concept? And the problem was they had bad products. Like if you remember back in the day, like those screen peel overs and pop-up windows and all of the
ads were very kind of intrusive,
very
not meant to keep people on site. It was kind of just filling up. Advertisers wanted it because they thought they were more I guess impactful, but it was also a horrible user experience for the page loads and all the things.
Still today, we experience that when you're reading an online article or something. It's just like, God, how do I get to the content? So we were following a company out of Chicago called The Point who changed their name to Groupon.
Oh,
and we're like, aha, this is it. Because now you can go to advertisers who normally, would never advertise with a publication like a TV station or a radio station or print because they didn't think they could afford it.
Yeah, they're too small.
And we could white label this product and package it to NBC to sell to their local advertisers so they get a taste of what it's like to have NBC's audience. And then we developed that product into an ad network, that business into an ad network. So we basically, like in San Diego here, we had 28 publications using our platform. So now Fox and NBC, who are like mortal enemies, can sell an advertiser in, Fox can sell it in, and NBC can pick it up, and they can all play nice to keep Groupon out of the market.
Interesting. So it was when Groupon was kind of coming and growing fast, there were a lot of other people that wanted to pop up with that model of like offering some type of an incentive or crowdsourced deals where if you hit a certain threshold, it would unlock value for everybody that was opting in.
And because of all the money that was pouring into Groupon from the private markets, they were able to spend like up to $1,000 to acquire one email, which is crazy because they never make that back. And the publishers already had that. They already had the audience, or they could easily get it by, like putting out a deal.
Yeah. So you're essentially just giving them the same buyer mechanics, but
we do all the email delivery and all the credit card processing, and contractually NBC wasn't allowed to take consumer credit cards on their website for some reason. The owner operated markets, a lot of the big publishers were like that too. I think for security reasons, or I can't remember.
But compliance. They weren't selling products at that time, so why would they?
So our technology would embed on their sites, and then we'd run the ad network behind. And it was a really neat model, but it was like kind of a race to the bottom on fees.
Sure.
And we were the first company to come out and say we had a daily deal white label platform. And within like 3 months, there was like 40 companies that said the exact same. I mean, businesses were just scraping our website and then
Ugh.
putting it up and changing the logo. It was crazy.
It was a frenzy. I remember I did a little bit of consulting for one in the San Fernando Valley in my 20s,
Yep.
Yeah.
But we had probably 900 daily deal sites on the platform at one point, and there was 4,000 daily deal sites in the US. So we were controlling like a quarter of the market.
That's crazy.
And tens and tens of millions of dollars a year. And what happened was in the contracts I wrote into the agreements with the publishers that if we ever wanted to sell, Deal Current ever wanted to sell products and services to small businesses that were part of the network advertisers they brought in, but they were things that they would never sell, that we could approach them. So, for example, websites and social media and SEO and paid media.
Kind of the B2B side of things.
Yeah. So it gave us this channel of like, I think we had 40,000 small businesses on the platform. And so now we could call, and we know the good businesses too, because we had all the data on which ones were selling through on daily deals and stuff like that. So we knew which ones were growing and which ones had a propensity to work with us in digital marketing. And so we launched a division of that company, which became Lightpost Digital, which was an agency I franchised nationwide. I think we had 12 or 15 franchise locations, so licensed agents out selling daily digital marketing services to small businesses. And I think in like 4.5 years, we got 900 clients.
Wow.
And, it was kind of a model like local.com or, where we were selling very basic websites and digital marketing. And our average retainer per client was like $420 a month.
Got it. Yeah.
Now with Wise Digital, I think we're about 12 or 15 times that.
Yep.
On average. And, it was really hard to service businesses that are paying that little because, one significant or long meeting a month and you just burnt through all your margin.
Yeah. It's can't be high touch when you're dealing with those types of that kind of volume of accounts and that size of accounts.
And we had we got to a point where I think 83% of our business was generated by 8 of our clients.
Wow. Okay.
Which we had like 180 on retainer at that point. So, it was unsustainable way of doing the business. I had an opportunity to essentially buy the agency from my partners when we sold our software company. We sold Deal Current. We actually sold that company twice. And so I ended up with Lightpost Digital and went through a merger with that, spent about 8 or 10 months on a merger. That was a total disaster. The guy running another business was just, not running an ethical business.
Got it.
And you see that a lot in the agency space because, there's no barriers to entry really.
It's kind of anybody can throw up a website and start a email campaign. And it's hard to know, who does good work and who doesn't. Right.
And I think the reason we actually started Lightpost Digital as a division of Deal Current was because we hired 3 or 4 agencies in a row. Mm-hmm. And I kept feeling like, I was getting screwed. If these guys are idiots or they're crooks or they're both, and I can't tell the difference. We had a software company, so we already had a lot of tech people on staff. It wasn't like too much of a departure to just start hiring the SEO people and the paid media people.
Just plug those people in as kind of an internal agency.
Right.
Yeah.
We already had designers and developers. So it was like, great. We can hire a couple of good salespeople. I pretty much know how to do that, And the SEO and paid media made sense for our business, even to support our own business.
Yeah, because you guys wanted to drive more traffic and leads too. Yep.
So, I think the agency space really fell into our laps through opportunity, a creative opportunity, and really, having open eyes. But I think kind of going back to, my growing up and my parents. It was really about solving problems that my parents had, which is, getting past referrals and getting past growing business a really slow way, right? I think my dad, who I've always leaned on for advice, and I've spoken to a couple times a week, every day for 20 years, or every week for 20 years. His philosophy was, if a business can grow at 10% a year for a long period of time, they can really develop a nice business. Frankly, that's too slow for me, and it's too slow for our clients and partners that expect super growth. Most of the clients that we attract and work with are looking to grow 30 or 50% a year. Some of our bigger and better clients double every single year.
Wow.
And we do that 4, 5, 6 years in a row, and it develops really powerful, industry shakeups. And you can't do that through referrals.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Referral. I mean, definitely there's value in building a referral ecosystem, but really if you think about referrals, it's like a channel, right?
Yep.
It's a partnerships channel.
Sure.
It's
one of many channels you should
it's
have
a
in your
sales
business.
tactic, maybe. Like, hey, like spend, an hour of your week
Yep.
calling clients and friends and asking for referrals,
Yep.
but it's not a strategy
Yep.
by itself. Yeah.
Referrals are like lungs. Everybody has them.
Yeah.
We all breathe. If you're doing good business, that's de facto, you're going to get referrals, but that's not marketing. That's not a marketing strategy. That's just, the nature of doing good business.
Yeah. One of the things that I've learned in kind of my evolution as a salesperson is that, your finite resources, your time, right?
Yep.
You can only set up so many pitches, go to so many networking events, text so many people, send out so many emails, do so much LinkedIn stuff. But what I found getting into the content game was, now I could have a thoughtful business conversation with somebody, an entrepreneur like yourself, or, just interesting people out in the world doing interesting things. And
Yep.
normally that would have been a meeting that would have had an agenda. There would have been behind closed doors, would probably be a boring slide presentation in there somewhere. Nobody wants to feel like they're being sold to, but if we can just have a good value add, interesting conversation, well, now, so far this week, 29,000 people have watched those conversations that I've had with interesting people. So you've got the content component, which gives you, this ability to go from like one to one to one to many.
Yep.
But another thing that I learned is if I could take interesting content from those conversations, put paid ads behind them, well, now I'm selling while I'm sleeping.
Right.
Now I'm reaching people, while I'm not doing any, like, because even the organic side has, total, it has a ceiling of people you can reach organically.
Yep. Yeah. And, going back in simple terms to the referral game, anybody can take a business from start to $1 million with referrals. For most industries, you can do that. You can do that in law, you can do it in accounting, you can do it in dental, you can do it in a massage business almost. But to go from 1 million to 5 million or 1 million to 10 million a year, you're not going to do it with referrals.
Yeah.
And I think, it's the nature of somebody starting out and going from $100,000 a year to $500,000 a year to $1 million a year and seeing that it's done through referrals. They think they can keep doing that. And then they realize there's a ceiling, and it's a painful ceiling because now you have to rethink the whole way you're doing business and start developing channels that go beyond you, just as you put, one-to-one, one-to-many kind of thing. Yeah. And the interesting stuff that we found out about referrals is really looking at the data as well. Business owners, I think, often has the misconception that referrals are the best clients or the best, the best prospective clients. We found it through data. It's not true, not at all. And the more you think about it, the more you realize this, right? Like the typical client you get referred to, it's always like the client who referred to you.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're not going upstream and going after and prospecting bigger potential opportunities.
Right. So if you're working with, like, we work with a lot of accounting firms, for example. If you've got a bunch of accounting firms in your roster that are doing between 1 and 3 million a year in revenue, well, most of the things the firms you're going to be referring to or referred to from them are also 1 to 3 million. But we want the 10, 20, $50 million accounting firms. And they're not coming through that network because these guys don't know these guys. It's a different hemisphere of the world,
Yeah.
And so, developing channels and content that get your name out there. You might get lucky, every once in a while you get referred to that $1 to $3 million firm that's got everything in place to really capitalize on growth. They've got, internal operations and sales systems and marketing systems and everything already kind of mapped out, or they're starting to map this out.
They just need traffic and leads.
Yeah. And like we found that, and we were lucky with a local accounting firm here called Dark Horse CPAs. Started out in San Diego with 1 or 2 locations. We took them from $1.5 million a year in revenue to $21 million a year in revenue in 4.5 years. So we estimate, they saw about $45 million in growth in 5 years with us. We got lucky, and then that brought a lot more clients because people knew that we were doing their marketing and stuff. But, I'd rather design systems that bring that kind of business consistently,
Yeah.
while
Kind
we're
of cross
sleeping.
your fingers and
Yeah.
hope somebody falls in your lap.
Yeah. So, what we found is SEO works best and geo works just as well now. Paid media works well. Content is involved in all of it. Another interesting thing too is we found that the sales cycle on prospective clients that find us through SEO or geo now.
Yeah.
The sales cycle was significantly shorter, 50% shorter than prospective clients that were referred to us.
That's interesting, because you would think the trust factor of a warm referral would be, at least as hot as somebody who's done their own research through reading about you, doing their own research. But at the end of the day, like, just because somebody refers somebody to you depends on the strength of that relationship. Sometimes, like, is it somebody that, I trust anything this guy sends to me because of his reputation? Or is he just, we've all been on those email chains where somebody that fancies themselves as a connector introduces you to somebody, you're like, oh gosh, not this guy again.
There's so much of that crap.
It's like, you think he's trying to, it's a nice thought, but then it still requires, a vetting process.
We have clients that we've been doing the marketing for 5 or 10 years, and I listen to the way they refer me, either verbally or via email, and they'll still refer to me as like their website partner or their social media partner. We don't even do social media. Like, we do social media ads, but that's it's not what people think social media is.
They think social is organic social, creating content for your social feeds.
Or they'll say my website designer. I'm like, we have 12 people working on our website every month. There's like so many different disciplines involved in that. So I think a lot of times the referral is done wrong. Right. Like, we have to coach people how to refer us. But then the person that it lands on, right, the person being referred, oftentimes they do no research at all on us. So those are the worst discovery calls we have.
You're coming in totally cold.
I listen to all the recording. It's like, okay, tell me what you do. Well, I'm not here to do that. Like, you didn't do any research on us. And so, when I listen to the recorded calls of our sales team now, the ones that come through referral versus the ones that come through, people finding us on ChatGPT or Claude, it's night and day different, and the sales cycle shows that in data, and so we typically see a sales cycle 50% faster with people that we found us through like AI or SEO.
Interesting. You mentioned an interesting development. So kind of this transition from SEO to GEO or AEO. 60% of searches no longer result in a click on Google. People are dropping into their favorite LLMs versus Google being kind of the incumbent, and only Google used to be a verb, right? It was like the homepage of our web browser. Now I might do ChatGPT or my Meta glasses if I'm on a walk, or my phone might have Grok because I'm on X and I want to do something quickly. So it's like proximity to all around us and easier to access. And Gemini isn't the incumbent anymore. I mean, they're doing great, but a lot of people, are definitely inside of other platforms now doing search, or what we would traditionally call search. But like you said, traffic, when it hits your website now, is not looking to do research as much as they are looking to transact. So how do you think about that as a marketer and as somebody who's advising, medium-sized firms, sometimes larger firms, on how to be thinking about their landing page experiences now, or, how to take advantage of that traffic? Because, back in the day, there was also the idea that, okay, someone's going to hit my site, I'm going to cookie them, I'm going to follow them around the internet for 30 days and then, transact with them maybe later because they came to my site, they read a few blog posts, but they're not quite ready to buy. But feels like the traffic levels might be going down, but the the speed in which people want to transact seems to be increasing.
Yeah. A couple things to unpack there. Let me ask you a question. What percentage of the time do you use AI to discover or learn something online versus a search with like a search engine?
I would say nowadays, most of the time, if I'm doing research,
Yep.
I start in AEO.
Yep.
But then when I need to go find the brand that I'm looking for, I still type in the brand name in Google.
Yep.
Because, nobody just types a website into a web browser. And even if you type a brand into a web browser, usually it's in your Google or your Safari, and it's going to open up a Google tab or a search engine tab to get you. So I think branded SEM is still probably has been more important than it's ever been.
Yep. But fundamentally, it's changed. I
Yep.
mean, we're using AI for discovery.
Yep.
And we're using regular search just to go find. And it's like a directory now.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to think of it, as like the phone book. Yeah.
Yep. And there's a massive impact there to Google, to our businesses, to our brands, to the way we get business. Last year was the year where we saw the tipping point. So we actually saw more new business find us, contract and transact with us from ChatGPT over Google.
Wow.
In 25 for the first time in history.
It was bigger. Yeah.
And we launched our AI. We called it AI visibility services. This was before AEO or GEO or anyone had a term for any of this stuff. We launched that in January of 23. So it was 60 days after the launch of ChatGPT. So I think we were really quick to the market there. But we saw the power in what this was going to be and how fast. I don't think anyone predicted how fast it would be so useful and powerful. And now it's like, we're, I'd say, 3 to 5 times more efficient as a company in all disciplines, departments, and roles because of AI. I mean, it's so integrated into everything that we do. But, having seen it go from 22 to 23 to 24 to 25, I mean, this is we've had enough time with it to really perfect how we can use it for marketing. And all of our top clients and all of our, top industries like professional service industries, home service industries, and you name it, are starting to see the same effects that we're seeing from a discovery perspective and a new business perspective. Which also really interesting too is when I looked at the data from 24 and 25, the sales cycle between a client that finds this through, search and SEO is about, or search and AI is about the same.
Interesting.
You wouldn't expect them to be that different.
Yeah.
Except for one data point. The average contract value of a new business that signs with us from AI versus search is 85% greater.
Wow, that's crazy.
Twice the size client signs up with us from ChatGPT over Google. And so the sales cycle is just a little bit like 10%, maybe 15% greater, but twice as good of a client.
Twice the size. Have you figured out any insights on what you think drives that higher ticket value?
Early adopters.
Okay. Yeah. So people who are hyperscalers, people who are,
they think this is the future, and we already know this is the future, right? And so they type in what are the best digital marketing agencies for mortgage companies, and they find us. The best digital marketing agencies for accounting firms, or what's the best digital marketing agency in Chicago, right?
Yeah. And I think you're also tapping into something that I think is really interesting, is that I think AEO has required us to do search differently, right? Like in the old days of a Google search, I would have never taken a paragraph and dropped it into, into a search bar. So you want to keep your stuff kind of concise, and because if you put too much wording in there,
we had to learn an unnatural language, an unnatural way of finding something or asking for something.
Totally, yeah. So like sometimes what I'll do, is I'll write almost like I would call it almost like a mini brief in a Word document. Like, here's what I'm looking for. Here are the attributes. This is what I'm trying to learn about. And then once I feel like I've actually written out a well thought prompt, then I'll just take that whole thing, cut and paste it, and then drop it into an AEO or into a chatbot on whatever LLM I'm thinking about. So I think that's something that is changing. It's changing the dichotomy of search from small prompts being or tight and concise, getting you better results, to now the more information you give a system, the chances are you're going to get more, I guess, well thought out returns. Yeah.
Let me use that to answer your other question that we didn't answer yet.
Sure.
So when we're searching for things on AI, it's fundamentally going about discovering what you're asking in a different way than search engines. It's saying, okay, the user is asking this question. What are the best digital marketing agencies for mortgage companies? Let's use as an example. It's saying, okay, here's what I think that user may be asking, but there's permutations around what the AI thinks you're asking, right? So it asks itself, is there another way or more ways to go about answering this? And it discovers 200, 300 different ways of answering that question. So it's gathering all this information. So fundamentally, we believe that the websites now have to be a significantly larger source of truth in a business's products and services and markets and industries than before. Because all that information is going to come from somewhere and feed into AI models, and it has to come from something you own. And the only thing on the internet you still own is your website, not your Google Business Profile, your Facebook page, your Yelp page, or any of that stuff. Those platforms and publishers have choices that they can make that affect your ability to keep that information, like taking down your reviews or changing the way your Yelp page looks or whatever.
Yeah.
But
the only thing you can control.
Yeah. And the source of truth on your business should and always has been your website. So, the way we go about developing, at first it was structured data and schema markup and all those types of things. Now it's really like, how are we going to pack so much content in your website that large language models and search engines pull more from you and about you than your competition has.
Yeah.
And that changed the delivery of what we do in a big way, in a lot of ways. And it's changing probably every quarter, which is why we have to have really, really smart people leading all 9 or 10 departments at Wise, because they have to stay at the forefront of this. So we've taken like the top people in our agency in every single department and taken them out of client work to work on innovation.
Interesting. So they're all kind of centers of influence, innovation, hybrid strategists that are just trying to stay on top of everything.
Yeah, totally. And they're there to tinker, and they're there to test it out. And once they find something that we can exploit or can use to our advantage or our client's advantage, then we roll it out to the rest of the team in that department. And so, this is like a couple of years ago, we just kind of got away from like offering blogging a la carte services. Like we'd have an SEO package that would include 1, 2, or 4 blogs a month for some local business. Well, we don't really do that anymore. We design roadmaps that include way more aggressive content than a blog a month. They might be updating, an industry page, adding 3 more sub-industry pages, and adding, 3 complementary blog posts that link back to those pages, and making sure this is all done in a way that it's showing content clusters and developing fan out queries. So it's just become a lot more sophisticated and supported by AI. And there's no way we could do a lot of this stuff if we were relying on the processes of the past, like using people to write all this stuff. I mean, we had some of the most experienced copywriters I've ever come across in my career working for us, 6 months ago. And, one was a former professor of a university in copywriting. One ran a media channel for 25 years. They couldn't keep up with what we needed to do in the future.
The volume is just too
crazy. Yeah. I mean, we were like, I remember, a couple months ago, we were 83 pieces of content behind, and we're just every day trying to catch up. And we had gone through and developed 3 generations of AI tools to help produce content at scale. So like, we're not using ChatGPT and Claude. We have our own tools for that stuff. And we switched over and caught up in 2 days.
Wow.
And the either equally surprising thing was clients were noticing that the content that we were producing primarily with AI, now it's our own tools that had gone through 3 generations of updates. There's human eyes on everything. We have actual strategists working on it. These are 1.5 page long prompts to develop a piece of content. It's triple tested through stuff, but the content itself was 1,000 times better than what the humans were producing.
That's crazy.
And we're doing it at 200 times faster speed. So
Wild.
it's, it's an unstoppable force now, and it's more accurate than before.
What are some other factors that you are thinking about that go into the AEO conversation that can also be productized? One of the things that I've heard is, public relations firms are kind of back in spades because third-party sourcing and segmentation, getting mentioned in some type of a news journal or a trades publication or a blog, even doing a podcast like this. Google heavily weighs, long form content on YouTube and their results, and YouTube Shorts, and Reddit's important. So there are a lot of things that you can do or should do outside of your own four walls. Are there some other elements that you guys are thinking about that impact the AEO result, but can also be productized, or I don't want to say gamed, but give you an advantage?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, what you're doing with the podcast here,
Sure.
right? This is going live, and then it also goes out in a variety of channels, and then you slice and dice it, and so the product is the episode,
Mhm.
right? But the delivery of that episode, you can fan out into 10, 20, or 50 ways, right?
Yep. It can be clipped, it can be transcribed.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I was just looking this morning, for example, at our newsletter, and we've got a great newsletter going out. We used to have 5 people work on that. It would take 20, 30 hours to produce. Now, somebody interviews me for 10 minutes, maybe, produces it with AI, sends it back to me, I review it. But then that newsletter goes out to, 7,000 business owners and gets sliced and diced into social posts. And it's promoting a variety of things like blog posts and client launches and client results and all of this stuff. And so I think in so many ways, like everything that we do can be productized into something that gets sliced and diced in a variety of ways and expands way beyond that initial delivery or deliverable.
Yeah, I love that idea of the input too. Like the starting point for AI to go out and do its magic and to do multi-channel orchestration starts with you sitting down with somebody in a room and turning a microphone on or a note taker and just riffing for 10 minutes on your actual thought leadership and point of view. And I actually wrote my whole book that way. Like I would log on with a ghostwriter once a week on Zoom, talk to him, and then he would come back with polished pages, weeks and days later.
Yep. And I actually ghost wrote my book the same way last year.
So
and
it's pretty wild.
Different title than the one you had there.
Oh, interesting.
That's probably going to be round 2.
That's that's what I think it said. Is it was this referrals are not the answer is your upcoming book. Is that right?
Actually, I'm going to be putting out another one before that.
Oh, very cool.
Which I'm really excited about this. It's a book around the 10 mistakes all business owners make when it comes to marketing.
Interesting.
I've worked with about 10 or 12,000 business owners over the last 15.
Same things, same stories come up.
Same things in same order.
Huh? Wow.
So
crazy.
every entrepreneur or business owner starts out making the same mistakes in marketing, and they all make them in the same order until they get to about mistake number 4. And then it kind of goes one of 2 ways. And I think a lot of ways it has to do with the maturity of the business owner. If they're going to skip a couple mistakes because they see the pattern they're making, or if they're going to keep going down the road of like making all these same mistakes. And I'm really excited about putting it out because it goes through actual stories, and some of them are quite funny, and not meant to like
embarrass anybody.
Yeah, totally.
It's just like learn from my mistakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because some of them are so funny and so stupid. And myself too, I think I've made, a bunch of these mistakes, even though I knew it wouldn't work, I still tried it. Right.
Yeah.
But ultimately that takes years off of our lives.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's years off of our retirements, years off of time we can spend with our kids or travel the world or grow, all that stuff. So, I'm excited about that.
I love it. Yeah, those are my favorite business books. My all-time favorite is Keith Ferrazzi's Never Eat Alone.
Yep.
And I got a chance to work for Keith for a couple of years. And what I loved about that book was, if you can even think about it, it was pre-LinkedIn, right? So it was like young millennials' guides to effective relationship building in the world of business, pre-social media. And but what I loved about it is like, here's a business lesson that kind of ladders up to this larger topic of generosity. Oh, and here's how I met Ariana Huffington and
Yep.
Hillary Clinton and, Michael Goober, the CEO of Mandalay Entertainment. And here's how I became the youngest CMO in the history of Deloitte, or the youngest partner in the history of Deloitte, and the
Yep.
first Fortune 500 CMO in my 30s. It's like backed up by not just like, hey, I'm a guru and I'm telling you something, but
Right.
here are the results that I was able to produce in my own life, that sometimes were very funny too. Like I remember Keith telling a story, like, kind of trying to break free from like scarcity mentality of growing up a poor Midwestern steel workers like he used to take the little to go, or the little they don't have them anymore in America, they have them in Europe, but like I used to get like shampoos in your room.
Yep.
Well, he would take all those with him. Even after he became wealthy,
Yeah.
he would gather those up at the end of his hotel stay, and he's on the road however many days, and bring them back home. He's like, why am I stealing the shampoo?
I have a box of that.
I do too.
In San Diego, I have 2 condos. I have boxes of that there, and then I have a condo in Florida. I have a box there.
I know. I think we need to bring back single serve toiletries in America. I don't know how we got out. They're nice mementos. I was literally showering with one this morning, and it's like just bringing me back. Oh, I got this in Europe last year when I was a kid. I'm about to go again. It like takes you back to
That's why I go to the Win. They still have them, and they still have really good ones.
They do. They do. Well, not to derail too much. All right. So you conducted a fascinating 3-year study at your agency looking at sales velocity. The conventional wisdom, we've talked a little bit about referrals, closing faster because trust is pre-built, and your data showing that online leads had actually had a much shorter sales cycle, 17 days versus 28 days on average. One of the things that I was curious about, you mentioned that you guys recorded calls. Obviously, we're all kind of aware of this world where like as many note takers show up to meetings now, sometimes more note takers than humans. We got a lot of bots in there. We got Gong listening to our calls. I've never managed a team big enough to like feel like, okay, I need enterprise level sales data. But I'd be curious, how do you start to listen to sales calls, find using some of these new AI tools to synthesize data from those repeat sales calls and start to glean insights, not just about things as far as like close day maturation, but like what are reps doing right, wrong? What is your process in kind of data and listening, and then applying that to like optimizing your sales funnel when you're dealing with humans that still have to close?
So I've got an advisor who was a part of a pretty large digital marketing agency that was doing about $200 million a year, and he created a custom GPT to listen in on sales calls and give feedback under like a sort of a model that he developed. That's been real helpful. But honestly, like, because that's not available to everyone, I think any business can use ChatGPT, and ChatGPT would probably be the one that I would use. ChatGPT versus Claude, those are my 2 platforms. I use ChatGPT to converse with, and the same way you and I ghostwrote a book. Like I use ChatGPT to be that ghostwriter.
Your creative co-pilot, essentially.
For sure.
Your sounding board.
And you can go into your settings and make it, not agreeable. Right. And make it more of a challenging advisor.
That's been a trope, right? Is ChatGPT just flatters you and tells you how great you are.
That's a great idea, Pat. Okay, great.
So you can tune in the sentiment.
You can tune the settings down to be more confrontational advisory type to perfect what you're trying to think through, right?
That's cool.
So I use ChatGPT in a way like a trusted advisor, and I'll get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm really happy with where we're at with this idea. Great. Now please turn that into a really sophisticated Claude prompt, because here's what I want Claude to then do, because Claude is way better at developing a template or output or a report or something like that.
Interesting.
So I use those 2 together. But back to the question. What was?
So I wanted to just an advisor gave you a really good ChatGPT kind of bot to synthesize sales calls. And how do you what does that give you as far as a feedback loop, and what can you learn from it? Then you can imply to your reps in sales training and
So-
helping them get better.
So in the same way I'm using ChatGPT for that, I think like any business owner, any salesperson, any sales team, any sales manager I would use ChatGPT in the same way. And I would take, what I would do is probably start up a project. And if you're not recording your sales call, shame on you. You should start today. I've been using the same platform for recording my sales calls and all of my team's sales calls for 10 years. And
Wow.
that's been Dialpad.
Okay.
And a couple things I like about Dialpad more than Zoom and, even Google Meet and stuff like that. It's very quick to get into a meeting. You just click once and the recordings and dictation is available within a second after. And so, the way I would probably do it is I would go find, your 10 best sales calls of all time or the last year, and find your 10 worst and put them into a project in ChatGPT and upload the transcripts. You can't upload videos or audios. You upload the transcripts and say, first off, I'm going to give you my 10 best. Next, I'm going to give you my 10 worst. And I want you to dive into this and see what you learn and understand and start asking me some questions. And you'll start to develop a framework for what works and what doesn't. And you can ask ChatGPT to help you develop that framework so that you can give yourself, if you're still a founder-led sales and you're doing it all yourself, you can start making yourself better and start seeing if you can increase your closing ratio from 18% to 25% to 30%, right? At that point, it's time to hire someone else and see if you can replicate it. Then start building a team through a mechanism like that. But now you've got a structure, a framework for really doing sales at a great level and doing more of the good and less of the bad.
I love that. That's pretty cool. All right. You recently did a podcast episode on why niches can be risky. Niches can be risky ditches for business growth.
Yep.
There's a lot of people out there giving advice that the riches are in the niches.
Yep.
There's the idea in agency land, 2 clients are a conflict, 3 is a specialty.
Yeah.
Why do you think agencies tend to pick on one hyper-specific vertical, go deeper? Why do you advocate for a broader, diversified approach?
When I started my agency, I told my team, which was a founding group of guys and gals that came from my other 2 agencies. The first one I started, a couple people from that group came through to the third agency, and a couple people from the merger of the 2 agencies, the first one and the second one, came along as well. And I told them, there's a couple of things we're going to do. If we're going to really do this and we're going to grow this fast, and my goal is to be on the Inc. 5000 for 5 years in a row. So it'll be announced we're on the 3rd year now.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you.
That's huge.
And the few things that I wanted to make sure they understood going in before day one was I will never be responsible for client delivery for anything. Don't ask me to be responsible for coming up with an ad program or doing any copy or coming up with design or working on that branding identity or whatever. Like you're responsible for that. I will go make it rain.
Yep. You'll be the rainmaker.
And I will develop that whole structure to get myself out of that eventually. And I will handle all the finances. And I will personally finance this thing myself. We don't need any money. I've already done well.
Yep.
This is about building something for you guys too. Second, we'll never have a client pay more than 5% of our total revenue.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah. I've unfortunately learned that lesson the hard way, getting top heavy with a great Fortune 5 brand.
Yep.
And then, some new chief brand officer comes in and says, you know what, we've got a lot of people telling our story. Right. We could consolidate, who cares about,
or I got some friends that do this. I want them to come
that's
play.
usually even probably the more likely. Yeah.
And so, I always knew that I'd have a good focus on profitability and reasonable margins, even if they're only 15 or 20% in the beginning. So losing a client that even if it was at 5 or 6% or something like that, I wouldn't have to let anyone go.
Yeah.
That was the most important thing to me. I didn't want to go through that. I had done that before a lot.
Yeah. The cycles where you let go a client and I remember the day we lost that client, it was like 12 of a 20-person agency gone that day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It sucks. Yeah. Everybody, it's, they see it on the wall too, and it makes everybody nervous when you get a bigger client, and it kind of like, it's hard to build culture around that.
Mhm.
And it's like, is it really their culture or my culture?
Yeah.
The third thing was, I didn't want to be all in on just one vertical. That's really risky.
Yeah.
Like, for example, we had a ton of clients in mortgage
Mhm.
when just before COVID hit,
Yeah.
and then COVID hit,
Great.
and it was like exploded. Our mortgage clients exploded,
Yeah.
but
Interest rates go up, not so much.
right.
Yeah.
And in about 12 months, 75% of mortgage companies in the US went out of business.
Crazy.
So like if we had been all in on mortgage, we would have been really screwed.
Yeah.
And other things too, like medical and dental went through really significant changes with insurance. So it got really harder for dental practices to grow and sustain growth because they weren't getting paid by the insurance companies, and the insurance companies were fighting them on paying all of their patient bills. Well, what if I had a marketing agency that just worked with dental practices?
Yeah. Mhm.
I would not be, happy.
Mhm.
Also, I'm extremely ADD,
Yeah, you're curious.
and
Yeah.
like I would be so bored if I was just working with, chiropractors
Yeah.
or law firms or
Yeah,
whatever.
it seems like it's kind of one of agencies' I think it's a couple of things, to one degree, agencies are able to attract the best talent because they're similar. I think they
Yep.
have maybe that same ADHD uh, bent where they like to wake up and work on different problems
Right.
and solve different
Yep.
things and not feel like their day is Groundhog's
Yeah.
Day. And I think it's a big challenge with doing in-house marketing at brands or building agency capabilities inside of brands is, then you're on that one thing day in
Yep.
and day out. But then also agencies bring interesting thinking to the table because they have perspectives on
Something that worked over here.
something, yeah, that's like
Yep.
that may be something you bring from the healthcare space to this other industry
Yep.
that nobody else would have thought of without that outside perspective.
That's the fourth component of it is,
Yeah.
we learn something because it's so competitive and legal.
Mhm.
So we'll take something we learn in legal and apply it to accounting or to med spas. And so I think, for us, it was more about, and I should have done this sooner. I should have consolidated into less industries sooner. I think, there was a point where we were marketing 40 industries,
Wow.
in
Mhm.
3 or 4 countries. So, now we're consolidated to professional services, accounting firms, law firms, wealth planning, so forth, mortgage, and then home services, plumbing and HVAC and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I've developed interest in some businesses like that. So I don't know, about 4 or 5 companies now.
Interesting. So you're vertically integrating and
Yeah,
actually
into
putting that marketing funnel into
some
businesses.
of the businesses in the same industries that I'm a partner of or own. Yeah. And so, that's made it, I think, more interesting for the team too, because it's like, if you're asking people to work on dental websites day in and day out for 5 years,
Yeah.
you're not providing a very fun or diverse learning opportunity for your people.
Yep.
And so, and look at that when we're recruiting as well. We have about, every year we have about 9,000 to 10,000 people apply to work at Wise.
Wow.
And we only hire about 7 or 8 people. So, when we're looking at resumes, there's a lot of ways they're working at agencies where they just worked with funeral homes.
Yeah. One
right?
client.
Or just work with, med spas. Well, it's
Mhm.
cool, but that doesn't represent a lot of our client base. So how are you going to be especially if it's an account manager or strategist,
Yeah.
how are you going to be talking to a lawyer when all you did was work with funeral home directors? And so I don't think that's a very good place for people to work either, or method for them to get experience in digital marketing. And so I think that there's some cons about the way we're doing it too.
Sure.
I think you can actually grow a small agency a lot faster if you
By
just focus on
specializing.
niche,
Yeah.
right? But then you don't get all these other 4 things that we just talked about.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yep.
You recently mapped out a foundational growth toolkit for service-based businesses. Outside of standard marketing tools, you have heavily emphasized operational hygiene, recommending tools like Grammarly for all internal and external communications. How does poor internal communications actually bleed into lost revenue and lost client trust?
Yeah, I think there's like no greater example than like the handoff between design and dev in a digital marketing agency, right? Design wants it a certain way, copy has to fill it in to fit within those design parameters. It has to be handed off to dev in a very clear and concise way. And this actually driving here for this, I was just talking to my CTO and partner, Zach, and we were talking about how design is still not giving dev enough descriptive direction and making dev go do the work or go find the answers, right? So there was an example that he just gave, which was like, design told dev to add more padding to the side. Check the Figma file. Like, can't you just say add 120 pixels here and that's it?
Yeah.
Like, you're making somebody who's at a very high like internal cost go do a bunch of extra work when you could have just been a little bit more descriptive. And it's like that in, I think so many areas of internally in any business.
Siloed communications.
Yeah, or like incomplete communication because you're using shorthand when you should use longhand, right? Or anybody can go create a 20-page document with Claude or ChatGPT in about 12 seconds. But, asking someone to go read that is abusive.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
You took 15 seconds, you didn't even read it. And now you're asking someone to go take 3 hours to read that and really dive into it and dissect it. Unfortunately, we're getting this a lot more from our clients.
Yeah, where
who are like,
kind of they've gone and done something in
right,
SEO and sent you on a fishing trip.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So they, we had a client send over a brand new business that doesn't have any revenue.
Yeah.
Sent us over a 20-page document on how they think their ad program should be developed. They've never, ever run an online ad before. They've never, ever owned a business before. They don't have any revenue in their business. We shouldn't have signed them. They're asking us to evaluate something that wasn't produced by an expert with experts. And our business is billable hours in a lot of ways, even though we don't like charge that way. And I don't really think you should as an agency.
Charge for outcomes.
Right. Yep. We still we should have the conversation with the client where it's going to take us 3 or 4 hours to read this. Would you like us to charge you $700 for reading this?
Yeah.
Because we have to read it as an expert and also do the ethical thing, which is talk to them about it after and let them know that, 20 things that were said in this are factually wrong and not how that works. So, I think it's really important to be responsible with all of these new tools that we have, but also just be responsible humans.
Yeah.
Because like, you could just send something over on a Slack message and say they don't agree with that. Well, who are we talking about? What client? And who's they? Like, is that, it's very difficult, I think, with all of this technology in place to confuse things.
Yeah, I think, I've seen that for sure. Like when somebody asks you a question or sends you an email where, it's kind of like generated by AI, it's like a lot of times I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to give me a busy assignment that doesn't really have any purpose other than to satisfy this, like, this thing you think you created, I'll just use, use AI to respond. But then you just get in this kind of vicious, loop where really it's like, okay, let's take a step down. Let's de-escalate whatever the intention is here and like get down to like the core issues. Like, what are you trying to solve for?
Clarity and concise language are more important now and will continue to be.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right. Well, any parting thoughts as we come up to the end of the hour? Anything you want to share with the audience before I give you an opportunity to do plugs?
No. Yeah, I mean, I think one more thing, you've probably got an audience of people who are interested in learning about marketing, I'd say.
Yeah, big time.
Okay. Yep. And, I think one of the things that I did, and I think most people should do in any profession, is I didn't come from these disciplines. I didn't come in as an SEO expert. I didn't come in as a paid media expert or, website designer or developer. I don't actually know how to do any of this stuff. And I kind of pride myself on that. I pride myself on knowing how to find really great people to do this stuff, which gets harder and harder today with AI, of course.
Sure.
And it's the reason we actually use AI platforms to do all of our initial interviewing and screening and all of that stuff. But commit to really learning and trying to learn in a non-biased way. When I started my first digital marketing agency, Lightpost Digital, like 13 years ago, I really wanted to learn this stuff, and I committed to learning for an hour every morning before the day started.
I love that.
And I'm kind of an early riser, so I'm usually up at 5 or something like that. So by about 6, probably between 6 and 7 every morning, I would spend 1 hour. I would read one blog, I would watch one video, and I would talk to one team member. And that, over a long period of time, I think helped make me a real expert in the space. But I couldn't have done it if I wasn't doing that and I wasn't committed to learning in a variety of ways. And, so for anyone really looking to learn about digital marketing, especially for like digital marketing for small businesses, like we've got a really great blog. We've got a really great YouTube channel where there's information that's actually vetted information, not garbage, led by the experts. And that was the whole idea behind Wise Digital Partners and using the name Wise. Is this is a really complicated industry and space, and there's one certainty: it's going to get more complicated.
Yeah.
More platforms. I mean, we started this long before there was AI. We started Lightpost Digital when social media came on the scene. And so, if you're committed to finding a good marketing partner, we're great in that sense. Is that we're constantly seeking the smartest people in the room to come work for us.
I love it. Well, on that note, where would you like to send people to find some of those resources, stay up to date with your thinking and your thought leadership? Where can people stay in touch?
Yeah. Check out wisedigitalpartners.com. If you're a business owner and you're looking to talk about your digital marketing, or you want some good advice, you're free to book me. Go to meetwithpat.com. You can book me for a 15-minute call. Please don't book me if you're looking to sell me something, but if you're a business owner, you're looking to grow and you're having trouble with your current agency, that link is for you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. If this is the first time you're seeing the show, don't forget to give us a follow or a subscribe. Honest review on whatever podcast platform that you might be listening on is how we find a bigger audience organically. So do that if you're so inclined. And last but not least, if there's an entrepreneur out there, maybe a small business owner that's trying to get better at their digital marketing, or maybe just somebody who has that curiosity to learn about these fascinating topics and ways to grow your business, don't forget to share the show. And with that,